Welcome back to Real Opinions. This is the first kind of episode in a sub-series of the podcast that we're going to be doing called Backstory Scripts, where so each episode we're going to be taking a script that either hasn't been produced or it is going to be produced and we just haven't seen it yet. And so in this kind of first episode, we're going to be tackling Passengers, which is the upcoming Chris Pratt, Jennifer Lawrence space flick, written by Jon Spaihts.
Jon Spitas?
This is definitely, it's a script that's been around for a while because the earliest draft, the one that we read, was from 2007. There's since been like drafts, obviously there's been lots of drafts since. The latest one that you can find online is from 2013. It's probably the closest to the shooting script, yeah, and then obviously they've probably changed more with the director and when people come on board and then improving and all of that. But we're going to be going into this script, so also just as kind of this is the first episode, I just want to give an overview of what we're going to be doing each episode. So the idea is that first we'll just give like a quick, if you don't want any spoilers for the film when it comes out, we'll give like a quick what our opinion was on it, and then we'll go into a synopsis of the film, and then we'll kind of break it down.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think of the film? Oh, the script.
It was like blandness distilled into its core essence. It was just so fine, like thoroughly disengaging but functional characters. Like they were comprehensible. I understood who they were and what their personalities were. That was it. That's the best I can say for them. A fairly generic space setting and a story that worked. You know, I followed the story. There weren't many plot holes. It functioned as a story that was coherent. And that's about the best I can say for this script. It felt serviceable. Like, if I got that script on a desk, I would go, this will make a movie. This can easily be a film of some level of quality. It makes sense.
Yeah, it feels almost like it could be like a mid-level indie. I know that's not how they've gone with it, but it's definitely like it's low on cast. There's only two people. I mean, the main cost would be the location, which, and I suppose a lot of that you can just kind of do with low level VFX because you can just green screen a lot of that stuff. But I mean, I think I definitely felt the same as you in that I didn't find either of the characters particularly engaging at all. I mean, there were moments,
which is almost impressive for a film with only two characters.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I mean, it makes it feel. I mean, it doesn't feel long, but it doesn't make it feel as much of an easy read as it could with just two characters, where it's focused entirely on their relationship. And I think, yeah, despite the fact it was just being, I mean, they had moments early on, and I think we talked about this a lot, but it's the fact that it's got this changing tone throughout all of it. In that, so for the first, third, I'd say hard sci-fi.
The opening was kind of hard sci-fi for about 30 or so pages.
Yeah, I'd kind of call it
romance for a good chunk, and then it ends in a really abrupt 5-minute action spectacle.
Yeah, and it just kind of changed, and I think, but it's the fact that they do each segment, each kind of tone change, the script quality gets kind of worse as well, and that we found. I found that the action was a bit strange towards the end, in that it had some interesting set pieces with some of the aspects of being in a spaceship, but it wasn't anything particularly great, and it felt like it introduced a lot of elements right at the very end just so it could have an action scene.
Definitely.
And then the very, very ending, once the action's being concluded, is also a bit stupid as well.
I think it didn't help. I believe you agreed with me on this, that the action was quite difficult to read.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I wasn't quite sure what was going on half the time. It was just like people were floating, and then pods were flying out into space, and things were sort of happening. I didn't really know why, and I didn't care enough to try and reread it 6 times. So I just went, sure.
Yeah. It wasn't the clearest, and I think it does come down to the fact that it felt like the action film was forced in to have a strong conclusion, as in like not like, I don't mean strong like a brilliant conclusion. I mean like a strong as in this is a reason why we should end the plot here, because due to the nature of the setup, you could go on for any period of time, and so you have to have a reason why we've stopped paying attention here.
That's true.
and it was kind of shoveled in.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I'd say I wasn't. The trailers for the film coming out didn't get me excited, and I think this just put me off quite a bit.
This made me think this is very similar to what I expected from the trailers. We've talked about how you said that the ending may be quite different.
And I'll talk about that
in the revised draft.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in the spoiler section. But again, we read the 2007 draft.
But either way, I felt like this was what I expected, so I still feel like most of it is probably going to be a bit like this.
Yeah, I don't expect too much change. And I mean, even though like I said, we've read such an earlier draft, I mean, lines were different in the trailer, but there were still, I mean, all the lines were in the original script. They were maybe in different places, but they were all
definitely
there. And so I think that definitely a lot of the structure has been maintained throughout.
Definitely.
Cool. So now we're kind of just going to go into a brief synopsis. This will go into spoilers because we'll go all the way through. But yes, but we're not particularly bothered about this script. What was that noise?
I was getting what you said, one word every 5 seconds. So it was like, now we're going. I still heard it.
I started getting like tech noises on the other side. I thought you were playing like ambience or something.
Right, so just repeat, what are we doing? Sorry.
Right, so that's kind of the end of our general review, and now we're going to go into the synopsis of it.
Gotcha.
Do you want to cover it, or shall I cover the synopsis?
Oh, did you reread it?
I didn't reread it for this, but I've got a pretty good memory for it, I think.
For our listeners, we recorded this quite some time ago. And technical difficulties meant we had to do it again, so my memory is a little fuzzy.
Yeah, but I think, like we said, it's with this script, I think we remembered, we definitely know the key reasons for why we didn't like it, because they stand out quite a bit. And
yeah.
I think it stands to serve in that we didn't want to reread it, and we didn't want to...
Yeah,
there wasn't anything really particularly memorable, like any memorable lines in it, or any memorable parts of their personality, except for the moments that I'll bring up as we go along.
Okay, who's doing the synopsis then?
Shall I do it? Because I think I might remember it a bit better than you, I don't know.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Cool.
I'll pitch in.
Yeah, feel free to interrupt with anything. Right, so Jim wakes up on the spaceship. He's a silver class passenger. He's also like a handyman, and he just happens to wake up in the middle of this transit. And so the kind of first third of this film is him waking up, finding that he's going to be trapped on here until he dies, because he can't send a message to anyone because it travels at light speed and they're so far away. He can't contact anyone. He can't he can't go back to sleep. He can't do any of that. So he's basically trapped on this somewhat like luxury space cruise for the rest of his life alone. And so it kind of starts off with a few kind of dark, morbid jokes which I think we both agreed that we both enjoyed.
Yes, definitely the strongest part.
Yeah,
for me.
It felt like it actually had a tone at the beginning, like a strong tone,
a personality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. And the most of that comes through in the robots and how he interacts with the robots, which include there are robotic things that actually look like robots, kind of manning the stalls and stuff like that. But then there is also the android bartender, which he has conversations with all the time, and it becomes kind of part of his daily routine. Arthur, yeah, you're right. Yeah, and so it kind of follows this thing of first he's down about it, then he kind of enjoys it, kind of like a kid at a mall, like locked in overnight. That kind of classic idea.
I liked that stuff too because it was fun. It was. I enjoyed when it was having fun with its ideas. And he does he break into the sort of the parts of the ship he's not supposed to be on? As a silver class. He plays the video games and gets really good at them and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the stuff where it's not so much just like you said, it had a personality in that he was making the most of his situation, and that was enjoyable because it's kind of, you can kind of imagine what you'd do in a similar situation as well, and it was just like you said, it was just fun. And and then it kind of goes into the fact that he does slowly realize that he'll be alone forever, and goes into a kind of spiraling depression. And in one of his many walks around the ship, he spots Aurora, in a pod and just becomes fascinated by her, strangely enough. And becomes like he starts researching her online, and he finds that she's a journalist and all of that, and
Reads all the
decides,
journalism.
reads all of her hard-hitting journalism, and decides to break her out. And so I think it doesn't. It kind of he thinks that it doesn't really do anything. He goes off to bed. She wakes up, and she's now finds that she's alone on the ship, and she thinks that they've both woken up at the exact same time.
By chance, yeah.
By chance, yeah.
He doesn't tell her that you woke her up, because obviously that would be a bit creepy. And at first she's all like, we have to get out, we have to find a way out, we have to see if we can contact people. And he's like, no, I already tried this, I already tried that, it's not going to work, we're here, we're stuck here. And obviously for a while she's pretty depressed about that. But eventually she sort of kind of slightly goes into his way of thinking of like, well, better make the most of it. And they go on a date, and they slowly start to form a relationship. It basically progresses as a fairly standard romance for quite some time.
Yeah, which I didn't mind, but as you said, there wasn't really anything as fun or as interesting as there was in the previous sections. Like, it felt like he got all of his... I mean, there are a few ideas in that. So I mentioned earlier that he's a silver class passenger, but she's a gold class passenger, so now suddenly he has access to all the stuff that he couldn't get before, which isn't
the nice food.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like a slight interesting thing that they do to make it just slightly different from everything else. But after that, it just becomes a very, like you said, very standard romance developing.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that sort of allude to a conspiracy almost. Because she's an investigative journalist, and she has chosen to go on this cruise as a way of like finding out how it would be. You have like documenting the 200-year gap between her leaving Earth and arriving on this new planet. So inexplicably, some kind of newspaper or whatever has decided to invest one of its best journalists in a 200-year-long article. They're just not going to be writing for 200 years. They're not going to see any benefit. The newspaper might be closed in 200 years. God knows what's going to happen. But they just decided, yeah, sure, you go off. So she left behind her whole family into this uncertain future to write what I can only assume would be an 800-word article, if that.
Well, they definitely hint at that she's not just doing an article and that it's turning into a full book. They definitely hint at that throughout.
Fair enough.
But I think the idea, well, the entire purpose is that for her, she's the only one that's bought a return ticket. So she's the only one going to this new planet just to like look around and then head back.
So it's going to be a 400-year article.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, like imagine you get back and you go up to the officers and go like, oh, by the way, 400 years ago, someone asked me to write this article. Here you go. You're new management. You don't know if this is bullshit or not. You got to root through records and everything. Like, what an impractical, totally redundant thing to do.
And I think it's the fact that it instantly makes her unlikable right from the start, in that, I mean, you get a lot of protagonists in films where they're putting their family to the side to focus on their work, and that's fine. But no one... and they kind of eventually learn, oh, it's too late, or I want to see my family, or something like that. She's chosen to literally never see her family, her friends, have them die before she does, just so she can do one story or one book.
And she doesn't seem remotely fazed by this.
Yeah, well, they have, like, some moments, like, this is all throughout the romance section, which we're kind of just all compilating into one long stretch, because that's basically how it is, yeah. I mean, she does look at the photos from, they say they're all photos from, like, a going-away party. And she's kind of, but she doesn't show too much remorse over it either.
No, and also, it sort of feels like her remorse is more to do with the fact that she's living on this ship alone now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, I'm stuck here, I'll never see him again. But you already weren't going to see him again because you were buggering off for 400 years.
Yeah, and so that was her whole plan, that's that she was going to come back. So for her time, it would be, obviously, you go to sleep, you wake up on the new planet, it's 200 years later for you, no time has passed at all. So for her, it'd be however long she spends on that planet. So for her, it'd feel like 3 weeks, like a writing exercise, and then she comes back to a 400-year-old later Earth. And there's just, it's ridiculous, that kind of, and that, I think, is, we've kind of got sidetracked with this, but I think I didn't like her background for her character.
No, it was a silly premise. It was silly.
Yeah.
So anyway, the romance blooms. Eventually, they bang.
Okay, just get right to it. Yeah.
I mentioned that because the way it's written in the script is hysterical.
Yeah, I kind of wait. Do you want to talk about it while I quickly look it up, because
it's something
that needs to be read quote for quote.
Okay, yeah, that's true. So Aurora and Jim, they have a relationship blossoming. They literally have a space picnic at one point, which is something that we joked wasn't in the trailer of the film, and we needed, but it's actually in there. They have a space picnic. They fall in love, and then we get a montage of them having sex in various positions and places. And it is very bizarrely written, because all the way through, I feel like the stage directions and the actions describe Aurora very creepily. Like, the writer is in love with his own creation here, because he's always talking about how beautiful she is and how she does everything with such elegance and grace, and she's such a stunning, remarkable creature. And it's very odd, because it's not like it's focalizing Jim's point of view. Like, the first time, Jim sees her, it makes sense to describe it that way. But it's just literally whenever she does anything, it describes her as beautiful or graceful or elegant or something. And then we get this sex montage, and it to me, it solidified that he kind of has a thing for his own character.
Yeah, and it's definitely, it's almost like Jim has... Well, it's definitely almost like he's put himself in the way of Jim, which I'll talk about later on, which I'll get to a point later. But it's definitely in this, and it's the fact that he picks Aurora out for no reason whatsoever other than the fact that she looks pretty in the box. And then he starts looking her up.
She's literally a toy.
There you go, that's good illusions there. And she's going to be blonde in the film, so you can put whatever Barbie imagery you want to put in there. But and so it's the fact that she doesn't even know her character, and then he decides to look up her journalism. But it's the fact that he doesn't know about anyone else in this ship. He just decides to stalk this woman and then ruin her life by making it so that she never even gets to fulfill her dream. But but anyway, so I'll read this little. So it's about. It's just a whole page of sex, basically.
Yeah.
Not the same sex scene, but it's just like repeating for
in different locales.
Yeah. So it's like it starts off with the top of the line is just the first time they have sex. Then it's a lot. But I'll start with so I think this is in the trailer as well. But it's when they're having breakfast. That's like the first moment in the montage. And that she leans across the table and kisses him. The kiss gains steam. Soon they're making love right on top of breakfast. Steam. I know so it gains steam and then it's right on top of breakfast is the quote for quote.
That just sounds messy and uncomfortable.
And then the next one is them making out in a movie theatre. And the second one is Aurora straddles Jim in the jacuzzi at the ship's spa. She moves against him. She's close. She climaxes gorgeously.
Oh, God. I actually screenshotted you that and sent you it before you read the script.
Yeah, because it is funny. I mean, I can see why, like, it's a very weird way of wording that they've had sex. It's the fact that it's very much focusing on her. And then she climaxes gorgeously. It's the most memorable line out of the script, I'd say.
It genuinely is. So anyway, relationship, banging. So Arthur, who is the robot bartender from before, has been sworn to secrecy by Jim. You don't tell her that I woke her up. Yep. And then on like their anniversary, I can't remember exactly what he says.
It's her birthday, yeah.
Right, yeah, her birthday. he lets it slip in a accidental way that feels very like, why would a robot make that mistake? It felt intentional. It felt vindictive the way it was written.
It felt kind of a bit back to what you said with the conspiracy thing, in that it made me think back to that.
Yeah.
In that it was weird that this robot just completely forgot, and they kind of do this as it's kind of a continuation of what you said in the beginning, in that they have this. The robots act like everything's really happy and cheery just because that's how they're programmed, and they're not aware of his situation really. And so it makes it seem like he's actually being creepy and evil, when in reality it's just meant to be a mistake. Like,
yeah, because I did think it was vindictive at first and was waiting for it to be followed up, but it's not. No. So he accidentally lets it slip, and Aurora's pissed, and it's like, you murdered me. Obviously, he didn't literally murder her, but her rationale is that he took away her life.
Yeah.
So she gets pissed off, and then this other dude wakes up.
So they've split apart. Jim's kind of into depression. They're living in different rooms now, and it seems like it's several months later, and so then this captain wakes up.
Yes,
and he's just the captain. He's just randomly woken up. However, it is.
Why did he wake up?
No given reason.
Plot,
exactly.
Plot woke him up.
So he
heard the plot and went, better wake up.
There's several reasons why he wakes up, for plot reasons. In that, one, he wakes up so that now, since he's the captain, he can get access to the maintenance side of the ship, which Jim hasn't been able to get into before. He's kind of taken a sledgehammer to it and stuff like that, but he could never break into it. So now they have a chance to do something behind the scenes with the ship and maybe, I don't know, figure something out. And then secondly, also now he is the ticking bomb, in that he's woken up, but something went wrong with his pod. Something malfunctioned with it, I think. And now he's going to die in very, very soon.
So he comes across Aurora's pod because he's trying to figure out what happened. And he discovers that Aurora's pod has been deliberately opened. And he comes to the conclusion that it was Jim. Now, in a logical script, that would be how Aurora finds out.
Yeah.
This guy would stumble across it and go, "You woke her up."
I mean, fairly generic script, but it is how structure works.
Yeah, it's just logical. Like, this guy wakes up, he doesn't trust Jim, he doesn't know who he is. He finds out that you woke this woman up. He's got no reason to believe that you didn't wake him up as well, therefore.
Yeah.
So he's like, "You're a creepy freak," and then he'd then go and tell Aurora, and that's how it happened. Instead of 2 pages before having the robot accidentally slip it out and then having this guy discover it. They're so close together as well. Both of those events are so weirdly close together, but instead the captain kind of bizarrely works as a way of sort of repairing their relationship.
Yeah, well, he's basically the captain guy, Gus, brings it up to Aurora when they're alone, basically saying, like, "I think you got woken up by Jim," to which he goes, Yeah, he did. And basically she just explains the situation that Jim was in. And then Gus kind of works as this kind of, "Oh, well, you can't blame him. He was drowning. And can you help a drowning man for pulling someone else down with him?"
He mansplains.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, actually. I suppose you could use that. It is definitely like he talks down to her and basically says, like, "Yeah, but he was suicidal. Of course he'd want someone.
Of course he needed to bang."
Well,
can't blame a guy for trying.
Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely like, and you know that's. It's not like he's meant to be saying the wrong thing, and that you're meant to be thinking the same thing. You're meant to be going, "Yes, he's speaking the truth. You should forgive this guy that did."
You're supposed to feel like Aurora's being an unreasonable bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Where they have already set her up as an unlikable person, so I can get why they set that up. But I mean, it doesn't really work out that way. Gus has shown up, and basically they get into the maintenance areas, and they find that basically the ship is slowly dying. I suppose that everything's beginning to fail now.
The way it's described is that a couple of systems have gone down, and when a system goes down, the other systems therefore have to share like the load. They have to take on the responsibilities of that system. Yeah. And that puts more pressure on those systems, and so it has a domino effect, because like as each system goes down, it means the other systems are having to take on more workload, which makes them collapse faster, which means that the next load are having to take on even more, and it's kind of exponential in that sense. Like, the less there are, the less there is to run all this stuff, the faster they collapse. So there's definitely like a sense of time and jeopardy there. Like, it's getting worse.
Yeah, and then this is as it comes into the sort of actiony part of the film, and where
Yeah.
I say it gets not confusing in terms of plot, but just confusing in which elements are happening.
Geography is definitely the geography definitely confused me, as did the general cause and effect.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna try and
First we
recall it
said
the best I can.
Gus dies for no reason. He is finished servicing the plot and he dies.
Yeah, so he only gets around, I'd say, it felt like 15 or 10 pages of the script in which he exists. And then because of this disorder that he got out of the pod, he basically just realizes that he is dying. And so he just gives them all of the information that they need to fix the ship, and then stands out in an airlock and sends himself out to space to kill himself.
Is that how he died? Oh, see, I don't even remember this. Is that
Yeah.
I thought, oh wow, that's slightly more interesting. I thought he just died.
No, so he kind of treats it as, I suppose I thought the idea was that the idea is that the captain goes down with a ship, although I suppose he's the first one jumping off.
Yeah,
So that doesn't really work. But the idea is that, yeah, so he knows that he's going to die, and so he just gives them all the information, stands in the airlock, and has a sort of heroic, stoic death, I suppose.
yeah,
In that he's meeting his maker, he's not just whittling away the hours until it happens.
yeah.
And so now with 10 pages to go, or 15 pages to go, I suppose, they've now got to fix the entire ship and fix what this problem is and find what it is.
It does happen quite strangely as well, because they go like, "Shit, it's all going down. We have to fix this," and then it cuts to her swimming and him asleep.
Yeah, exactly. And it has a very unclear timeline in that they say it's failing, but we don't know how long it's going to take. So sometimes Jim is working, sometimes they say he's working too hard, and then other times it cuts to like them on a break, and they're like repairing their relationship, and she's going swimming or something like that. In which case it leads to the first kind of action set piece, I suppose you could call it, where she's swimming, as you said, and then the gravity cuts off, and she's drowning in this floating ball of water, and she's got to fight her way out,
Yeah,
which I can't remember how she gets out of.
doesn't matter. She gets out.
Yeah, I mean it's that happens. I mean I can't. I think it just goes to show that we remember so much more of the beginning because that was much more memorable and much more fun and just had something different to it, and then it just gets into more generic stuff as it goes along. They start having these problems. They finally realize what the thing is. They've got to go down into the kind of hull of the ship to find out what's really wrong.
Now, bear in mind that this has been set up as a conspiracy. Like the company that are running this cruise liner may be doing something shady. So I was led to believe that the reason their pods opened was maybe like Vault Tech in Fallout. Maybe it was a social experiment. They wanted to see what would happen if they woke someone up and left them for 9 years. But no. What happens, Jack?
Oh, I thought you were gonna. I thought that was a rhetorical statement. Then you were gonna continue.
No. That's a general statement.
So, so basically, they find themselves into the hull of the ship. In which case, you're suddenly introduced to lots of different rooms. In which case, where this action sequence is going to take place. But it's so suddenly like pressed upon you and told you how important it is straight off the bat with 10 pages left to go. It's kind of very confusing when you've had this whole ship this whole time, you've established a location just to add some new stuff at the very end.
Yeah, we are saying that this is probably not going to be too confusing when it is a film, because we understand the plot. It's literally when it's written down, the way that it's written down, it's just very like all I got from it was action happens.
Yeah. And they finally get into this computer facility, and there's a hole in the hull from a tiny meteor has come through the hull and hit a bunch of shit, and now it's kind of just causing this vacuum inside the room. And
that's what woke them up.
That's what woke them up. And
The
Jim
big
goes
mystery
in.
is a rock hits the ship. What a ship as well. I mean, I guess it's maybe like Titanic-esque in that, Titanic's supposed to be an amazing ship, but then a bit of ice sinks it. But at the same time, you're flying through space. You're gonna hit probably quite a lot of debris, especially if everyone's asleep. No one can man it. Why the hell would a tiny meteor smash through the ship?
I was even more confused about this plot. So the swimming pool incident has not even happened yet.
No. This happens, then they go to sleep.
Yeah, so basically they've got to go in, he gets in, and it's this whole danger of he's going to get sucked out into space, he has to patch up this hole quickly, and they find this tiny, tiny rock, and it is just this tiny thing that just... It's. I get the point that they wanted to get across, in that the whole idea was that sometimes things just happen without a reason, but when the fact that you've built up the idea that there might be a reason, like hinting at it, it's kind of...
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, and it makes it feel like the whole thing was worthless in some ways as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it smashed up this computer. Jim goes down to replace the computer with a new one. But there's still stuff failing. She goes into the swimming pool. The gravity cuts off. There's that whole sequence where she finally and then the gravity finally turns back on. She gets slammed back in the pool and she climbs out, and she's like, they realise that something's definitely still wrong with the ship, and then they've got to figure out how to fix it again.
The robots go nuts.
Yeah.
And then something inexplicable happens. I'm not sure if I didn't understand it or if it was just unclear, but all of a sudden the pods on the ship start getting evacuated and all the people that are asleep just start flying out the window.
Yeah, so basically they've got to put in this new computer in and basically just replace the old one, but this is as the ship's kind of failing and as gravity's failing, so they start floating through the ship. They've got to like propel themselves through, and then when they put in the new computer, it's kind of like a moment of, oh, we saved the day, and then it kind of, I suppose it's like they word it like a system reboot. So then as that happens, all of the hibernation pods in the entire ship get jettisoned into space.
I don't remember how many people it was. It was a lot of people, wasn't it? It was like 998 people or something.
Yeah,
flying
it's
to
a
their
lot of
deaths.
Yep.
And it feels like it's just there to add some last minute tragedy to the story, so that now it's a sad film. Yeah,
it's the fact that even though they saved the ship, it's the fact that they save everyone. And then, by saving everyone, they then doom everyone but those two.
Yeah, that's the thing. If they didn't fuck about, who's to say that they all wouldn't have woken up? Because what opened their pods was the systems collapsing. That's what woke up the captain. So maybe they'd have all woken up and had a chance to work together.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they didn't think, let's wake up like at least one more person or find an engineer and wake them up, because it's listed on his thing that he's an engineer. So I don't, or wake anyway. So, and it's bizarre that if the ship resets, this passenger ship, if I go on a cruise and the computer fails, I don't want the computer to restart and throw me overboard. What's the logic in that? In planes, when there's a crash, they send down the gas masks. They don't eject everyone's seats out of the plane. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I suppose they are in this hibernation pods, so they live out in space, I suppose. But there's no way
I'm pretty sure it presents it as they're dying.
Well, I vaguely remember that, but even if it's like these pods that are just floating out in space, how are they ever going to be recovered? Or they wake up and it's like 1,000,000 years later. Or something, so that's even more dark, right?
They could hit a meteor and die. If a meteor can take down that cruise ship.
Yeah. But they've saved the day. in that they killed literally everyone else.
It's like Team America when they fly in to save Paris, and like all of the collateral damage from them has just been them smashing Paris and destroying the Eiffel Tower and everything.
Yes, it's a very
We
it's a
saved
very
you.
hollow victory, I suppose is the way to word it. And and obviously they're like, oh, that was awful, but and Aurora kind of takes this as like a sure, it was awful that you doomed me to this awful death, but at the same time you stopped me
You
from
saved
another
me.
awful death by
Yeah.
coincidence.
No, that's what she literally goes like, "You saved my life." It's like,
Yeah.
no, he didn't. It's like you wouldn't accuse someone of you wouldn't like say someone saved your life if they kidnapped you just before like a gas leak explosion might have happened in your house. Like, oh,
Yeah,
you
that's
saved me.
yeah.
You're great. It's like she's got fucking Stockholm syndrome.
And then yeah, that is like the probably the best comparison for it. And then so they kiss, they make up, and cut to the ship landing on the planet years later.
The destination.
The destination, Homestead 2. The ship lands, the drawbridge kind of opens up, and lots of people of all ages start coming out because obviously Jim and Aurora have had a family, and
They got busy.
yeah, they go. Do you have to quote Syndrome for
Yes.
this? Yeah.
Yes.
And and then it kind of pans through the ship, but like years later, as stuff's it's kind of become overgrown, worn out. All the stuff is just like, because obviously there's like trees in the concourse and stuff like that, and it finally pans onto her final written book, and the photos from a photo booth years before. And that's kind of like their memorial service that the people on the ship have had for their, what's it called? Like their origins, I suppose.
One must assume that many of these children are the product of incest.
Well, there's grandchildren, so yes, it must have been just a big incest ship, really.
Whereas, if the screenwriter had chosen to preserve some of those people who got ejected, that wouldn't have been a problem.
It is also, I just wanted to add this as well, and that it's very strange, this aspect of the plot. I don't have a problem with it, I just want to highlight it in that it's children run down the gangway, children of all ages, of all races, which I don't get how you manage to have children of all races. I mean, it doesn't... But it's the fact that it's the fact that they mention all races, in that no way can two people encapsulate all race.
Yeah.
And especially their children, and so it's strange how that happens, but yeah.
True. And that's the end of
That's the end.
Passengers. Now, what did you say was different in the revised draft?
Yes, so in the revised draft, it does end with the same kind of shot of her finished book and the Polaroid pictures from the booth. However, I think it just kind of ends up with the fact that they fix the ship, but either all of the hibernation pods don't go off, or just the crew's hibernation pods never send off. And basically it ends with the ship arriving at the planet and the captain and the crew waking up and going through the ship and then realizing that they've been alive all this time, and they see all the remains of them, all the remains of their life, and that's the end.
Okay.
So it doesn't end up with them having a family. It doesn't end up with them like kind of starting a new cult. And I'm not sure if all the people on the ship die or if it's just the crew somehow survive.
Listeners, he didn't read the revised draft. He just skipped to the end.
Again, yeah, we read the 2007. I only found the 2013 until it was quite late. Also, I'm given the impression that Gus doesn't just arrive, give information, and die. Like, he dies in the final conclusion of the
Well, that is better if that's true.
Yeah.
But we're not reviewing that one.
But we're not reviewing that one. We're reviewing the worst version from several years ago, just to be cruel. But hopefully, if you've listened to this and you're going to go see the film anyway, you can kind of see how ideas developed and where stuff came from. I definitely recommend, if you're interested in it. We didn't love the script that much, but if you're interested in finding out the difference in a script over the years, so there is the 2007, there's the 2013, and now you can watch the film. So I think it's a good way of looking how a script can develop with the studio, I suppose.
Yeah.
But are we going to do ratings, or are we just going to just have our general discussion be enough of a rating?
We can do ratings if you want. I'd be going with a solid 5 if we did.
Yeah, I'm going with a solid 5 as well. So that's good that we've
It
agreed on the first one, in that it's not bad. Well, it has bad moments, but overall it's just very fine all the way
Yeah,
through.
there's good stuff. There's one joke that I liked right at the very beginning where Jim's trying to send his message, and the thing says like, "Oh, it would take 90 years for you to get a response." And before he sent the message, it goes like, "To send a message to Earth, it's going to cost you like $3,000." And he's like, "Yeah, fine, whatever, just send the message." And then it says the message will arrive in 90 years, and he just like completely loses hope and just like collapses and goes like, "Damn," he's like destroyed by this. And then the computer just goes, "That'll be $4,000," and that made me laugh.
Yeah.
That was the dark humor I liked, and that's I think symptomatic of the whole thing, because nothing of that kind of personality or wit happens again for the rest of the script.
So sadly, very very sadly, Climax Gorgeously is not in the 2013 script.
Fucking don't read the 2013 script.
Yeah, I know, it loses the best line basically, but it has the scene where they have sex on top of breakfast, and then it just cuts out the entire sex montage. So I don't really think you should go see it. But yeah, I think that just about covers everything we want to talk about in the script. I think it's a quick episode in that, sure, we had stuff to talk about, but we weren't that fussed about talking about it.
Yeah, it's just we could pick it apart a lot more. As we say, it's got a weird structure. The characters are mostly unlikable. There are things that are weirdly raised, like this conspiracy theory, that go nowhere. And we could talk about all these things for ages, but we just don't care.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I just want to add on to one thing that you just said is that you said, was it the characters are unlikable? Where I think there's a balance in that people kind of hear that and they think like, oh, I've got to make my character, like, it's not that they are, it's not so much in that the way that they are, it's the fact that it's presented like you're supposed to like them.
Yeah. I like, you know me. I don't have
Yeah.
any problem with. I always use this as the example. We're both fans of It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
If we were bothered by characters being unlikable, then we wouldn't like half the things we do. But it's like you said, they're not meant to be unlikable. They're meant to be flawed, but they are just flat out unlikable.
It's Hollywood flawed though, so they're flaws, but you're meant to instantly forgive them and just accept that they're there, and then continue with the plot and think about how much you love them over that. Yeah, I mean, I might go see the film anyway, just because it's a Christmas film, and that's the time where I generally go to the cinema more. But I'd rather go see Star Wars.
Exactly. Also, I find that the casting is, having read the script, the casting is very peculiar unless they change the characters massively. Because there is nothing particularly goofy about Jim, apart from maybe in the beginning. He quickly turns into a very serious scumbag character. And Aurora is a very cold, I would say kind of, I got the impression she was older in the script, very cold.
Yeah. Well, I would have gotten the impression that she was older if it wasn't
woman.
for the fact that he kept talking about her looks all the time.
But it says that he's like 45 on his pod or something, doesn't it?
Oh, that is true. He is meant to be a bit older. That is true.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, doesn't really ring true with Chris Pratt. Like, I feel like Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence are too attractive. They're too fun. They're not...
Well,
I can't imagine Jennifer Lawrence as a serious, hard-hitting journalist.
see, I don't mind that aspect of her, but I think I have the opposite in that I think that when she does, like, I think she can just play it the same way that she did with Katniss, in that she plays it pretty straight and pretty blunt, but there's no room for fun in that. There's no
Katniss
room
is
for...
different. Katniss is she's blunt and whatnot, but she's got like that survivalist mentality, whereas
True.
Aurora's just a bitch.
Yeah.
she's just not a nice person.
Yeah, no, I'll give that. And like you said, I wish that there was something goofy with Jim, and I wish that everything that we'd seen up to this point was given the impression that they brought Chris Pratt on to give it a bit more charm and a bit more likability. But to be honest, it looks completely sapped of emotion in everything except for attempted tension.
Robot's good. Arthur's good. I like Arthur's Arthur's my favorite character.
Yeah.
All the robots are the best characters.
Yeah, there are little quirks for the robots all the way through, and they're not really used to add any drama at any point, which I think, if anything, just benefits the fact that they're only there for jokes and that you look forward to having more scenes with robots. But that's about it. Cool.
Yeah, that's about it.
That kind of wraps up our... Yeah. So this is something that we're going to be doing every so often. I'm not sure how often we're going to be doing it, because it does involve like the whole reading the script beforehand, planning everything out, and I will be trying to do more concrete synopsises later on. If you want to get kind of involved with the series at all, our next episode is going to be the old Shane Black script, which never got produced, Shadow Company, which you're looking forward to, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, after this one, I needed something that I'd enjoy.
Yeah. And then if you have any ideas for anything you want to cover, you can reach us on Twitter, on Facebook, All Real Opinions. YouTube is where we put all our reviews, and you can listen to all of these podcasts as well as our regular one. And I think there's an email attached on the YouTube page as well if you want to send something directly to us. So great. And hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully listen to the next one.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye-bye.